Good evening. Welcome to Community Tapestry. My name is Jim Stowe, and I'm pleased to serve as your Executive Director of the Community Relations Commission for the City of Columbus, Ohio. And we're delighted you chose to join us this evening for a very special Community Tapestry program. We're talking about this evening a program here in the community that's really making some great headway in the lives of young men, those of us who are African-American men here in the City of Columbus, Ohio. It's called Program Teach, or Project Teach. And our topic for this evening's discussion is Will Work for Money. Will Work for Money is our topic this evening. And we're going to explore what is happening in the lives of young people out there who are making some changes and decisions in terms of how it affects their lives and trying to be a positive influence in their community. And so I'm pleased to have with us this evening in our audience, and also here is our special guest, persons in the program, Project Teach. And I'm going to start right here to my right and introduce him. His name is Abraham Morris. Abraham,
Hi.
glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next to him is Mr. Thomas Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, glad to have you here as well. Next to him is Mr. Mark Branch. Mark, glad you're here as well. And then next to him is Delane Stewart. Stewart, glad you're here as well.
Nice to be here.
Thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate it very, very much. We're also pleased to introduce to you the person who is the founder of Project Teach here in the city of Columbus, Ohio, John Gregory. And to Mr. Gregory, again, welcome, sir. I'm so glad you're here. You know, I had a lot of time to kind of talk about this thing over the years, about what you wanted to do with this program and what your passion was around this issue of how we get young African-American black men employed and as viable parts of this community. So we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And with you, you have some colleagues and associates, I think, who are co-laborers with you here in this great work. I'm going to start here to my left, introduce Mr. Mark White. And Mr. White, you are the owner of a construction company here in town. It's called the Midwest Construction Company. Is that correct? Yes. Glad to have you here, sir. Next to him is Reverend Jerome McGee, and he's with a program called Manifesting Excellence Now Institute. Glad you're here, sir. And next to him is George Newberry, who is the president of Budget Realty here in Columbus and the person who took a chance on this program. We're going to find out more about that a little bit later on our program. And then a friend and colleague, Dr. Alan Huff, who was the president of Neighborhood House here in Columbus, Ohio. Folks, your cohorts, as it were, in terms of this project and program and so forth and so on, but how did you bring these people into, how do they actually fit in Program Teach? Your co-laborers, I'll call it.
Actually, I beat him up. And well, first of all, I met Alan Huff a couple of years ago, and we decided that, you know, we got to do something as it relates to African-American young men. Even today, there's a lot of crime, violence, and we were trying to figure out, like, what is the answer, what is the solution? And so I went to this meeting, and there was this guy there that was just very loud and belligerent, and so he looked at me and said, well, you're awful loud and belligerent. We must belong together. And he came over to me one day, and he said, we got to get together, and we got to figure out what we need to do. And so over the last 2 years, we've been knocking our heads against the wall trying to figure out how do we get it out there? How do we change the paradigm of how we look at African-American young men? Well, Jerome McGee, Reverend McGee, came to work with us probably about 6 years ago. And when Jerome came, he deals with substance abuse and substance abuse issues. And we all know that substance abuse issues is a big problem in our community. And Jerome does a very therapeutic community healing. And he understood, you know, a lot of us are people who believe in God, go to church, and have a relationship with Christ. And what I said to Jerome was like, hey, look, I'm out here. We need to do something outside the four walls. Because in my belief, if the church people were on every corner, then there wouldn't be a need for a drug dealer on that corner. Then this past year, Mr. Newberry purchased the Woodland Meadows apartment complex. And Alan and I have known for a long time that this really is about economic development. Went to Newberry, who to me, you know, is what a lot of Americans who have resources ought to do. Went to him and said, you know, you're going to do renovations out here. You're probably going to spend about $6 million. If we want to eliminate crime, why don't we see if we can employ some of the guys out here? And so I thought he was going to say, yeah, that sounds good. Let's talk about that. Well, the day that I mentioned it, he said, let's do it. And then when he said, let's do it, I said, well, who's going to pay for it? He says, I'm going to pay for it. And I was like, well, how are you going to pay for it? He says, I'll pay for it. I'll find a way to pay for it. And so there's this project that we're doing. Probably it's going to be about $1 million project that goes into the hands of the guys who used to stand on the corner that's coming out of his pocket. Now, of course, there's an advantage for him because he gets cheap labor, but at the same time, we got guys who weren't working before who are now working and who are making well above minimum wage. Rick, I've known Rick we've both been working in the community for a long time, and Rick is one of the brothers who, I try to connect other brothers with. He's 33 years old. He's had his own businesses, and he's a real positive role model. And so we're using him as a person who can be a guidance and talk to some of the guys and say, you can make some other decisions. You ain't got to make that decision.
John, you talked about a lot of things here, and certainly to all of you, thank you so much for what you're doing in our community, and particularly for those of us who are African-American men in this community. I want to turn now to our guest here, and I'm going to start with Abraham. As I asked the question, first of all, how did you find out about Project Teach, and what has it meant for you?
I found out through a cousin who had went through the program and graduated and started working construction, and I went blindfolded. I went in not expecting. I was, didn't know what to expect, and I say that the same day that I went, it changed my whole life around. Once I heard Mr. John Gregory talk, and it blew my mind because everything that he said in there, it seemed like he was talking directly to me, and it just like opened up doors, and it's like I told him before, I said, I'm not really here for the money, I'm here for the knowledge, and that's what I'm seeking. And for that, it's a beautiful thing, because on the flip side, I could be out there on the street corners, in jail, or in a cemetery. But instead, I'm thankful for the class Teach, and I'm living, doing the right thing.
Outstanding. Mr. Kennedy, what about you?
I've been on the property for a few years, and I came to know John through my work. I worked on the property, and under his guidance and his support, he's been giving me a lot of backbone and that I didn't have. I've changed my life like in a matter of days, my way of thinking, through Mr. Gregory's help in the Teach program, and seeing all the guys really striving to do better with, the community, with themselves. I'm all for it, and I love it. It is a beautiful thing, as Abraham said.
Thank you so much. Mr. Branch, what about you?
It was pretty much the same thing as Abraham. I came to the class. Really, when I came to the class at that point in my life, I was out of a job. I really didn't know what my next move was. And I got a flyer in the mail about black men and women who want a job, who want to start their own business, come to the Teach Center. That's how I found out about it. So I went up to the Teach Center, I sat down, and I heard Mr. Gregory speak. I also felt like he was talking directly to me. And, it's just really, I was really in awe, really too, to see a brother, really committed to the struggle. I seen people like that on TV, or I never actually met someone like Mr. Gregory. But when I heard him speak, it was like, I felt like it was, this is really what I want to do. I really want to work. I don't want to go back to a life of crime or have to do something illegal to survive. So to me, it was a way for me to better my life, better my community, because rarely do you get a chance to work and at the same time better your community. So it was kind of like a double blessing. And so I just, right now I'm just taking it. I'm just running with the opportunity that I have. He also, let us know that, success is not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get rich in a week. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to take a lot of hard work. And all you got to do is just keep your nose to the grindstone. This is not like a handout program. He doesn't he's on us every day. Really, the pressure's on us.
I see everybody nodding, so I must be okay.
So we're not just there working and getting handouts. We are working probably harder than we've ever worked. Hot in the sun. We're like dragging materials across the lawn. We're literally working very hard. But, like you said, we're not really making a whole lot of money, but, it gets greater later. That's the saying that that he's also taught us that
it gets greater later.
It gets greater later.
That's all right. Mr. Stewart, what about you, sir?
I learned about the program through a family member who's currently an employee of Teach Now. And I too was out of work, didn't have a job. I was having trouble finding employment, or someone at least taking me seriously enough to give me a job. I started the class, went through the class. There were a lot of speakers, a lot of positive talk, but I wasn't sure if it was really going to happen or it was just a lot of talk. But as the class went on, I felt like it was something that I really wanted to be a part of. I started working hard, and John is constantly on us. but the reason for that, I'm learning to understand that is because he expects great things out of us, because he sees that in us. So at the same time, we got to keep on working, keep living up to those expectations. He's offered us a great opportunity. Him and Mr. Newberry have offered us a great opportunity, and we just have to take it. A lot of times opportunities come up and we let them pass. We don't take them seriously enough, but this is one time that I'm going to take this one pretty serious, because I need to make a change in my life. I'm trying to get somewhere and be someone respected in my community, and it's just something that is really great to be a part of.
That's outstanding, Jones. So thank you all for being here very, very much. But let me ask a question. I'm going to turn back to our partners in this effort of Teach and so forth. I'm going to look down here at Alan Huff, and if you'll pass the mic down to Dr. Huff. Doc, this is a story that, and you're from Cleveland, Ohio, and certainly have an idea about what happens in that community, and now come to our city here in Columbus, Ohio. The stories you hear, what's being said here from your perspective?
Well, when I think about it, it's more than the story of just hope. It's a story of putting hope into action. And every time I heard one of them young men speak, and they said something that I think that we need to really pay attention to. They said, I heard of John. And John, first of all, I applaud you for what you're doing. But they said, I heard of John. They heard another black man to another group of black men that said that you can make it. And not only did he say that, he said, I have these high expectations of you, and you will meet them. And from what I understand, you're beating them up every day to make sure that they meet them. But I think that so often, sometimes our young men are not exposed. They're not exposed to the kind of opportunities, the things that you're doing now. And sometimes that exposure has led a few of you, from what I heard, from one direction to a total different direction. And the other thing that I think that was real key, it didn't take a long time. Once there, instantly, I heard that voice. And I know what they mean about John, because he do it to us too. He comes and say, look, I got the best deal in the world for you. I didn't know he meant I was going to work 24 hours a day, you know. But those are the kind of things I hear. But the kind of things, too, that I think we need to share with these young men is that there are other things going on to support your efforts, too. Like, I don't know if you know that John and I put on a march, and sometimes it's just us with a few more other people. We march because we say, no more prisons. We want jobs. That we are constantly involved in a program, well, the Empowerment Zone Alliance. I believe, John, you're the co-director of it right now. Right. Those are the kind of programs that we're going to make sure what's happening at Teach can spread around the world, spread around this country especially. You all are really a model. And I believe it was Mr. Newberry. Is that your name? Yeah. All right. I think what you did in terms of your investment, John said you're getting cheap labor, but I want to take it a little further. You're getting labor. You're getting the kind of labor where these young men are going to have the opportunity to put together a skill bank that you can take anywhere and make a living for yourself and your family. So you take it, I mean, it's like paid training. Take full advantage of it. You know, there's a lot of things that's going on like that. John has pulled us in just about every possible way you can with Neighborhood House. You know, sometimes he calls me too much, but that's okay, because as I hear these young men, these 4 up here, I know there's 4 more behind that could be up here. Then there's 4 more behind them. Then there's 4 more behind them.
We have about 80 guys.
All right, that's tremendous.
And
that's tremendous.
They come at 8 o'clock in the morning on time. And they set that standard. I was like, hey, come at 10 o'clock, just get here. And they said, no, they started out coming at 7. And demanded that they rule and they guide over them, and they demanded that they be there at 7 to sign in at 7. And I think that is what's so phenomenal, is our changing the paradigm of how we look at African American young men. You know, the society says they don't want to work, they won't work for $7 an hour. That's not true. These guys are working for $6.50, $7, $8, $9, depending on their skill. They're coming and says, I will do anything. I will sweep the grounds, I will pick up garbage, I will do anything. Just give me a job so that I don't have to go back to jail. Just give me a job so that I don't have to turn to drugs. And what's so amazing is these guys say, nobody ever said this to me before. I mean, the things that we talk about in the classes about changing the way you think, they will tell you. They said, nobody ever told us that we could think like this. I think one of the guys said one time that, you know, if you get the believing that you're so beneath the earth, you start living like that. And most of us have not had fathers who have given us guidance to say you can do better. But my whole thing, and Alan will tell you, is that we've been trying to change how all of Columbus look at African American young men, that they're not just thugs on the corner, but these are somebody's son who didn't have any guidance, who needs some guidance to go another way, and let them say that you can go another way.
John, I'll pass the mic down to Mr. Newberry. Let me ask him a question then, because again, California native, came to our city and so forth and saw this opportunity in terms of the apartments and so forth. Why do you take this up? What do you have to gain from this?
Well, the property's a challenge. Woodland Meadows has a very tarnished history to it, and it was purchased at a bankruptcy court auction. It could have been anywhere. It happened to be that at the time, I just finished a recent project in Kansas City. I was looking for a new project. It could have been Columbus, it could have been Atlanta, it could have been anywhere. It happened that it was Columbus, and it was Woodland Meadows. I met John, in fact, the first day I toured the property, just briefly, and it was a very brief meeting. And once I took over the property, we started working together. He introduced himself. We gave his organization a couple of projects, and he did exceptionally well. And over a very short time, he became the property manager. And I think we're both take it, if this property succeeds, financially, it's a big win for me. But it's more than just the financial. The financial rewards are great, but it's more the challenge. A lot of major companies have tried to do this project before and have failed. So here, myself and the small team that I've assembled, of which John is now a very large part, is I think we're looking at it as a big challenge, and to see if we can make this work. And I think even bringing in the teach program and having them do a great part of the work, I think that's even makes it a greater challenge, because here it really is the underdogs. It enhances the challenge, and it really needs to make this property work. It really doesn't need conventional thinking. It needs people to take new means of attack on it, and it's proving itself in working.
Yeah, let me say this too. One of the things that Newberry decided was that he was not going to hire 20 security guards. He decided, like, I don't want 20 security guards. Let's give these guys jobs so that we don't need to put them in jail. And I think that's what makes it phenomenal, is that you replace crime with another opportunity.
Makes a big difference. We're going to be right back, and we're going to come right back, gentlemen. I want to turn back to our panelists and ask about the impact it's had on your family and so forth and so on. We need to take a short break. We'll be right back on Community Tapestry.
Allow me.
Lovely.
What the devil are you doing here?
I'm only here because you're here, hot stuff.
Here we go again. This is going to be about smoking in the house, isn't it? Listen, this poor guy's been picked on enough. His home is his castle. He has rights, he has privileges, he has kids. You have kids and you're smoking in the house?
Just little kids.
What's the matter with you?
Are your kids to get pneumonia? No.
Bronchitis? Asthma? Do I have to light a fire under you? Get up. Smoke outside. What? Smoke outside. Make the right choice.
Go out for your kids.
I want to remember who I was.
I want to remember the old neighborhood.
My father's face.
Summer camp.
I want to remember
Everything.
The National Institute on Aging has a wealth of information dealing with serious memory problems. Call for details. 1-800-438-4380.
Everything.
As America has changed, Social Security has changed. A foundation of monthly income for retired workers was created in 1935. Then changes were made to provide for widows and widowers, and for disabled workers and their families. Later still, changes were made to ensure that benefit payments would always keep up with inflation. Now Social Security will need to change to provide for the retirement of 76 million baby boomers early in the next century. It's a big job, and it needs to be done right, so that Social Security will continue to help support not only the baby boomers, but their children and grandchildren as well. You can help draft the blueprints for the coming change by learning about the issues involved and our options. For more information, call 1-800-772-1213 and ask for the booklet, The Future of Social Security.
For our special program tonight, I should say, and we're looking at a program in our community called Project Teach, and the impact it's having in this community on the lives of African American gentlemen. We want to start back with our guests, but I want to have one of our guests this evening, John Gregory, who is the person who founded program Teach, to kind of share with us what Teach actually means. So I'm going to turn to John Gregory and ask him that question. What does Teach mean?
Teach stands for the Richmond Association of Community Healing.
Why that name, John? I mean, why teach, and why those particular words?
Well, if you know the Bible, Jesus said for us to go out and teach the whole world. And so part of our mission is to go out and teach people. And knowledge is power. The Bible said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And in the African American community, part of the issue that we have is we don't have a lot of knowledge, information. And information gives you power. The other thing is that we need a tremendous amount of healing. You know, what we are experiencing, particularly amongst our African American young men, is a great fallout of slavery. And so we need to go back and heal the ills of slavery. And it's our responsibility to do that. It is not anybody else's responsibility. It is the responsibility of us to take that. And so what we decided was our mission is about healing people so that they can go forward in their life and be successful.
Being successful, and I said gentlemen for a reason when I mentioned or made reference to you as our guest, to our guest this evening. Mark, what impact has this whole Teach concept and your being a part of it had on your family? You mentioned in your comments about how it has really been a renewal for you. But how has it impacted your family, your relationships?
My relationships with my family have definitely gotten better. I think they see me a lot differently. I think they always realize that I had potential to do better things, but you know, I didn't realize it. You know, up until this point in my life, for whatever, you know, the Teach reason, God, you know, and right now they're really, like, I remember I called my mother and I told her that, you know, I have my own business now, you know, and she had called the rest of my family members.
Just to verify?
Yeah, to clarify,
okay,
see if I was telling the truth.
Okay.
Because I had so many pipe dreams before that I hadn't followed through on because of fear, you know, the fear of, you know, of not succeeding. And so now, you know, they're really like, they're really behind me. They're really supporting me. My brother has a construction business also in Baltimore, Maryland. And when I told him too, he didn't really believe me. But you know, now he's seen that, you know, I'm serious. I'm going forward with the with this whole with the whole program, it's been really great, because for so long in my family I was the black sheep. You know, I was the one. I went to jail. You know, I did drugs. I dealt drugs. You know, so you know, they were really afraid, especially my parents, that that was going to be my life, that I was going to be in and out of jail. I was going to, you know, deal in drugs for the rest of my life. And now that, you know, I've turned my life over to God. You know, each day it is a battle. You know what I mean? Because I've been living a certain way for so long. But it's been really it's been really a beautiful thing to see that my family's finally behind me. You know, I got God back in my life. I got some respect to the community. You know, the brothers that live in the community with me, they really respect me. They understand what I'm trying to do with my life. I've had people even try to, you know, come over to my house. They want to talk to me now. You know what I mean? Our conversations are a little different than they used to be. They're not about rap records or women and belittling women or anything like that. You know what I mean? And, you know, just the TEACH program has just taught me, it's just that, you know what I mean, you have to respect your community. You have to respect yourself. You have to respect your community. You have to respect your women. You know what I mean? All of those things. You don't have to be rich to do that. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you're rich because you have a lot of money, but you don't have any morals to stand on. You don't have no foundation. You know what I mean? So that leaves you kind of with an empty, void feeling. You know what I mean? And I know I was tired of feeling that way. I don't feel that way anymore. And I don't have a big like I said, I have a business, but I don't have a lot of, you know, fancy cars or a lot of stuff like that. But I have dignity today. You know, I can look people straight in the eye. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to do the positive thing, to do the right thing, because it might be a little harder than to, you know, because it's real easy to go out into the street and do something really negative. That's the easy way out. And so, you know, I know I probably went off a little beaten path.
No. Very, very much. Absolutely. But you raise a point, though, that we want to make sure that our viewers get a chance to maybe think about if they are watching out there this evening. And Mr. Stewart, all of you, number one, let me just share with you, and please receive this comment the way it's intended. And that is to say, all of you, and I said gentlemen again for a reason. I mean, you look like persons who would be just successful all day long, I would think, if I were to meet you in a barber shop or a restaurant or what have you. What is it, Mr. Stewart, about life as you experience it that had you do something that led you to a direction that was not as successful for you as now teachers allowed you to be? What was it? What was the thing in your life?
A lot of just no direction. A lot of times in my life, I didn't have, I guess it wasn't, I didn't have great self-esteem. I figured that maybe what I was doing or the things that I chose to do were all that I could do at that time. It took me a while to really get into further my education, so I didn't have a real extensive educational background. I wanted to go to college. I felt I wasn't good enough to go to college. Wanted a good job. Didn't feel I was good enough to have a good job. So I kind of like turned to a lot of the things that took the easy way out. And in a lot of ways, it's not easy, but in the end, when you look at it and you do some real hard work and you work for everything that you get instead of doing a legal activity in order to get what you want and what you need, is you appreciate it more. So you know, now looking back on it, I can't really see why I even made those choices. It's hard for me to give you an answer to that because now I don't even see going back to something like that as an option. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy